Welcome to the Casting for Fun podcast. This is episode 5. I am your host, Albert Pineda, and joining me tonight is my good buddy, Marcello Ambriz. Marcello, how are you? How are you, man?
Good, man. I'm great. I feel like I haven't seen you in a long time, so it's kind of good to see your face.
It's good to see you too, man. I think that the last time was under not necessarily the best of circumstances. I want to say it was probably Joy Welling's funeral.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I totally forgot about that. Yeah.
But so how have you been?
I've been great, man. I've things are starting to open back up, and so music industry is up and running, and there are some bit of snafus that tours are catching because of COVID and having to postpone because artists or crew have gotten COVID. So, but other than that, I think we're well ahead of where I thought we were going to be. So, and we're resilient. The human race is pretty resilient. So I think it's we're taking steps forward very cautiously, but still it's progress from where we were 2 years ago. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. So for those who don't know, I mean, I'm sure most of my friends who do know Marcello, is that he's quite the established photographer. Has had many wonderful, amazing experiences shooting a lot of his favorite bands and bands that I don't know if you necessarily would have liked before, but maybe came to love since you've been shooting them. So we're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
But what I do customary for the show, all the guests who come on, is there anything that you want to plug in or talk about before we jump into your photography experiences?
Let's see, plug in. I mean, I honestly, I currently don't have a lot of things going on right now. But I mean, if I could recommend something, I think it would be for people to check out this docuseries on Netflix called Abstract. And they take a lot of different art disciplines, and they pick a person who excels in that, and then they have a whole docuseries on it. And I'm only saying it right now because I know you all talked about the Super Bowl last week.
Yeah.
But the person who actually designed the set and the whole, basically the layout of the set was this woman, set designer named Ez Devlin. And I mean, long story short, she's amazing at what she's done. She's worked with Kanye in the past. She's worked with The Weeknd. She's worked with Lord, Blur. I mean, you name it, she's done it. And she gets paid very, very handsomely for what she does. And so, so if you like music and you like the visuals of music and concerts, that's a really good episode to check out. Her name is Ez Devlin, Devlin. So it's definitely worth checking out. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for the recommendation. You said Abstract on Netflix?
Yeah, Abstract on Netflix. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I'm definitely gonna check that out. Okay, so for those who don't know, so Marcello is the photographer. He's done professional photography with some really established, really awesome bands. And I remember you mentioned it before for a post that you did on social media several years ago, that this life that you've gotten to enjoy was because of your love for the band 311, which is a mutual love that we both absolutely love that band. And go to many cities to see them. So first I wanted to kind of get the background on that. So for 311 itself, how did you get into them? How were you introduced to them back in the day? And what do you think it was that kind of sparked your interest in 311?
Yeah, so I have to go back to my time as a high schooler. There was a girl that I was super into, and she had mentioned that she really liked 311. And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to see what this band is all about. And I remember buying the Blue album for her for Christmas. And I bought it at a Blockbuster Music, which I don't know if people remember Blockbuster Music, but you could actually listen to that CD before you actually purchased it.
Oh yeah.
And So I went to the one in West Covina and sat down and popped in the Blue album. And I mean, it just was like exactly what I loved, right? Because I loved Bob Marley, I loved punk rock, and I loved hip hop. So it was like the melting pot that I was like waiting for musically. And like they weren't the first to do it, but those were the first people that I was like introduced to. And so was huge into 311. And then I met Derek, a mutual friend of ours, Derek Dupre, and he was into 311. And I think like the power in numbers like really sort of made what I thought was like just a normal obsession into like a legit obsession where we were all traveling to different places to go see them. I think famously, in Albert, you were already in the MTC or a year into your mission, but the weekend before I got set apart to be a missionary, me, Tom, this guy named Brad from Laverne,
Yeah, I know Brad and Nick.
Nick,
and
Ross Barron's son, Josh Barron. We all flew up to San Francisco and saw them at the Warfield. And then I flew back on a Monday morning, and then I got set apart. And then Tuesday I left for my mission.
That's crazy, man. I actually have heard this story from Nick before. In fact, if I remember correctly, you guys had to sleep on the airport floor like before you to catch your flight. Was that right?
Yeah. And the person who was vacuuming the ground definitely did not care about us. So they were like vacuuming like right by my head. So it was, yeah. But so anyway, so like I had this obsession. I met Derek. We all like really hit it off. And we went on our missions. I came back and I really just wanted to, with this obsession, I just really wanted to get close to the band. And the only way I knew how to was to shoot their shows. And so I would go to some of their like live radio interviews that they would do on Hollywood and Highland. K-Rock would do it. And Stryker was one of the guys who was interviewing. And so I just noticed one of the managers just like hanging out, and I asked him if like I could shoot their shows, and they said, sure. And so the first show I ever shot was at the Long Beach Convention Center. And it was, so Medeski Martin and Wood opened, the Roots opened, and then it was 311. And it was like, come on. That was such an amazing lineup. So from there, like I just been shooting, and then got really close to a lot of the band members. One in particular, Essay, is like a really good friend of mine now. And they were like, they basically, looking back at it now, like I was just doing a bunch of free work for them.
Yeah.
But it actually set me on like sort of this crash course of this like path where I'm like basically working for bands and shooting bands, and then on tour with them. Like I've been like super fortunate to really travel around the world photographing bands, and I've there's a lot of things I feel like I've missed out on, but there's just like no way in hell that I would like ever regret the path that I chose. So, but yeah, it's been a great situation, great ride so far.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So I do have a kind of a follow-up question with that. So today there's lots of like aspiring photographers, lots of people who are wanting to get into it because like the equipment's so readily available for everybody, very accessible. So it's interesting to me that you essentially just kind of met the right people and were able to ask and say, hey, can I come in? To me, it doesn't seem like people could really jump into it that way today, back when versus when you did it in like the mid 2000s, right? So I think was it more of like your your portfolio, like what you've already were able to present to them, so that they would, hey, let's take an interest in this guy when you presented it to them back then.
I didn't really have much of a portfolio, so there was really nothing that I could show. But I think artists are actually easier to contact now, and managers are too. But it is a lot of, I mean, there's just like too much, there's a lot of noise in the sense that there are so many people emailing or texting or trying to get a hold of artists. But it's doable now. But back in the mid 2000s, where like blogs were big versus like social media platforms like Twitter. I mean, Twitter didn't even exist, I don't think, then. I mean, I may be wrong, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like back then there was less noise, but it was the entry, like my entry to it was, I think, sort of a perfect storm of like my enthusiasm to do stuff for free, which is like the key there.
Yeah.
And just, you know, as a photographer, you're only as good as the photos you allow people to see. So, you know, of 200 photos that I may have taken, there's, as long as there's like 10 good ones, people don't care about the other 190. So I was able to show 311 that, you know, hey, you can trust me, let's work together. And they just were able to, they like afforded me that, you know.
Oh yeah. Awesome, man.
Yeah.
So with the connections that you've made, I mean, a lot of some of the bands are represented by some of the same people, right? So there was the instance when you got to shoot Incubus at the Wiltern, where Nick and I scored tickets, and then so there's that show. But I'm interested about like how you came about to get in contact with management for the New Kids on the Block, and how you came about shooting their show based on the contacts that you'd already created through 311 back in the mid 2000s.
Yeah. So it's actually like kind of like a pretty cool story. So I was supposed to go to Barcelona to teach a bunch of kids how to photograph, but that fell through. But in accepting that job, I basically had to cancel a bunch of gigs that I had. And then one day, I was with a friend that I hadn't seen in a long time. And long story short, later that night, his friend was like, hey, do you know anyone who is a photographer? And he's like, oh yeah, Marcello, I just saw him today. Messages me, and he goes, hey, someone's going to get in contact with you. And then like in that excitement, I messaged, so they asked, basically they were looking, New Kids on the Block were looking for a tour photographer. And so in that excitement, I actually texted S.A. Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yo, guess what? So I might go on tour with New Kids on the Block. And he's like, oh, that's crazy, because our former tour manager is their current tour manager. Let me text him, let me send him an email and let him know that you're up for the job. And so SA messaged Dave Brown, New Kids on the Block's tour manager, and said, hey, this guy's cool. Like, he's worked for us. You remember him? And then he goes, oh yeah, if you vouch for him, I'll vouch for Marcello to, you know, who, like, for whoever asked. Like, if their management is going to ask me, what do I think? I'm going to tell them, I'm just going to write him an email. So Dave Brown messages their management, and we had a lunch meeting set for a Wednesday. And Wednesday morning, Dave Brown sends their management a message saying, hey, this guy's cool. I've worked with him before. Show up. And their managers were like, hey, so we got an email from Dave Brown saying that you're cool. So there's not really much we need to do here. So they brought an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, and I signed it. And then we just had lunch. And that was it. So my connection with 311 and the work that I did with them, and just like the portfolio that I had, and this connection that I had with their tour manager, like really, that was a perfect storm. And so from 2013 to, you know, currently I do pretty much everything with 311. I mean, I'm sorry, with New Kids on the Block.
Dude, that's awesome, man. And I guess for bands like that, like nostalgia is a big thing where lots of people, like, you know, they want to come out, like, you know, they're selling out arenas, right? So it's actually been really cool work for you to do.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I mean, I fall into this trap all the time when, you know, when you kind of like make fun of a tour or make fun of an artist for like, oh, how are they playing Staples Center? It's like, man, like you said, nostalgia is like a really powerful thing. And if it's like the one concert that they're going to go to in 6 months, it's going to be a fun concert. It's going to be a fun thing. And there are a lot of people who are not like us, Albert, or like, remember, we used to go to shows all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we love to do. But there are enough people who spend, you know, who go to one concert a year. And so there are a ton of them all over the country. So they end up going to these nostalgia shows and they just have the best time in the world. And then it's usually sold out. Like New Kids on the Block has had multiple sold out shows, but I mean, if we're looking strictly at the money, they're just making a ton of money. I mean, they're making so much money that it's dumb for them not to go on tour.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you mentioned before about having a good relationship with SA. So I would imagine that a lot of the bands you've gotten to shoot, you've gotten to have good experiences hanging out, just talking like you would normally like you do with your friends. So hoping you could share some of your best experiences you've had backstage with people, whether it's been 311, the New Kids, any other shows that you've shot.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, I think for me, the most important thing is just having the trust of the artist, because then you do become friends. And so, I mean, I wouldn't say that they're like meaningful, like crazy experiences, but it's really a collective sort of like relationship and experiences that I've had with a lot of these artists that just make it such a beautiful thing. Like, what was it? With, give me a second. Oh, let me just remember. I mean, just like with Donnie Wahlberg,
mm-hmm.
we actually, we had a day off in New York, and he told me to go meet him he has an apartment because he films in New York, but he lives in Chicago. He was like, hey, let's go shoe shopping. And he brought like 6 of us out there. And then we went shoe shopping, and he spent like a ton of money without like blinking, you know, just like ton of money on shoes for us. And it's like sort of like this relationship that I've been able to curate and like really grow with these artists, that like they treat me like friends. And I think that's like a really important thing. Let's see, working with like S.A. Martinez and like just going, you know, crate digging, looking for records on days off. And it's like those simple things that you sort of experience with people that make it more meaningful than having like these crazy experiences backstage. And there's some crazy stuff that's happened backstage that, you know, like, I mean, like walking in on Donnie Wahlberg, fresh out of the shower, fully, I mean, like he's got a towel around his back, but getting Danny Wood to like dry off his back in a very like sort of very caring and nurturing way. And I took a picture of it, and every year Donnie somehow loses that photo, and he's always asking me to get it for him. And it's just like replaying that moment and being in Toronto. And it was like I think it was Danny's birthday that day. And, you know, just those things, like, it's just fun, you know, like it's just a collection of experiences that make it like really just really fun, you know?
Yeah, I think all my female listeners that I have just went crazy right now with you telling that story. The few that I have.
Right. But no, I mean, they're all like really great people. You know, I think I've never encountered an artist that's been like rude.
Yeah,
and I've been lucky to have that experience. You know.
Yeah, I want to do a plug-in for you. When you were just talking now, going record shopping with SA, it just reminded me that, hey, Marcello's work's actually been featured in a 311 album. Not just getting the show on tour, but actually inside the album itself. The album in question is Universal Pulse, And I've been collecting vinyl myself. I think you've seen that I've been posting my records on social media. I've been looking for that particular one. I can't seem to find it. I don't know if it's out of print, but I guess if you ever come across it, let me know, because I definitely would love to have it just so I can have your picture.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think I may have a copy of it. And it's funny. I don't know why this is, but S.A. Martinez has like a really big collection of records, but he always seems to have like 5 or 6 copies of his own album. So I don't think it's him, like, it's not a holier than thou, like my stuff is so great that I need 5 albums. I just think he just has 5 albums. Yeah.
Okay, very cool. So along with the going on tour with and getting to shoot, having these great experiences, you've gotten to travel to so many wonderful, great cities, not just within the US, but within the world. What some have been your favorite travel destinations that you've had?
I mean, anyone who knows me knows that I love England. I wouldn't say I'm an Anglophile, but whatever is a step down behind, underneath like an Anglophile, that's where I'm at. I loved going to South America. Like Buenos Aires is like a beautiful place. It's like basically Europe with Spanish speakers. And I guess it's like Spain, like it's a beautiful spot. But Japan, I've been to Japan a few times, and honestly, that place is amazing. There are like beautiful curated vinyl bars where, the Japanese love music. In fact, so much so that there are still Tower Records in Japan.
Oh yeah, I saw that. There's a documentary that Colin Hanks did about the rise and fall of Tower Records, and they mentioned that it's the only last standing one in the whole world, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, in fact, in Tokyo, I think there are 3 locations, and I've been to 2 of them. And there's one in Shibuya, and it's 6 stories. And they have, I think, 1 floor dedicated to K-pop and J-pop, like K-pop and Japanese pop, like boy bands. It's crazy. And they have the same old listening stations where you can listen to different albums. But it's beautiful. It's amazing. Japan is such a great spot, and even just to wrap this part up, is there's this great bar called JBS Bar in Shibuya, and there's a guy named Kobayashi-san who has wall-to-wall vinyl in this like small bar where the drinks are like $5, and he chooses like a record, and based on that record he'll choose another record. Like he won't go, it's not like a jukebox where he's like, oh, I'm going to listen to Smash Mouth, now I'm going to listen to R&B. Like if he's listening to soul from the 70s, he's staying within that genre, and he knows where all the records are, and it's just like a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's really a sight to see. Yeah.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. So changing gears just a tiny little bit. So obviously with your photography, you've gotten to use it to do it for touring with bands and taking pictures for them, but you've done it also for a hobby for other things too. So what I wanted to discuss briefly was maybe your favorite shot my favorite shot of yours that you've done, which would be, I don't know if
hold on.
Sure. Yeah.
Let me guess which one it is.
Okay. Guess what my favorite shot that you've ever done.
Yeah. You have a print of it. It's the Kobe shot.
It is the Kobe shot. Good job. Yeah. Good guess, Marcelo. Yeah. So that shot, I mean, it's, again, if you didn't know when Marcelo actually took the picture, you could just look at the players on the picture itself and say, hey, okay, Kobe's on the floor, Pau Gasol's on the floor, Lamar Odom, Trevor Ariza, and Derek Fisher. Okay, that's got to be the 2009 championship team. So
don't forget that CP3, Chris Paul is in that because he was playing for the Charlotte Hornets at the time.
New Orleans Hornets, right?
I think it was Charlotte at the time.
Charlotte? Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah.
But the game was definitely Staples Center. because the Lakers are wearing
Yes.
their gold. So the shot's just amazing, just Kobe dunking, and then actually you see it's pretty cool. Like one big Mexican guy's got his arms stretched out, like really cool. Like
Yeah.
of your shot, it's actually really cool. So explain to me how you're able to get those type of shots when, again, you're not courtside, you're just sitting as a regular spectator, but you have the equipment and you have the talent to be able to catch a shot just like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's all like, and you have to anticipate really. What's crazy is like what most people don't really know is that there's a team photographer and he actually has, they're called strobe lights. So it's like if you go and get your photo taken with like, in a fancy setup, the team photographer has those set up all in the rafters. So when he takes a photo, his shot is like well lit.
Uh-huh.
So when Kobe was going up, I was like, oh, I got to take a photo of this. So I took 3 photos. The first photo was, you can't see anything because it's completely white because of the flashes. Mm-hmm. And then the photo that I took that you like, and the one right after is another completely white photo. So, it's Kobe. And it was kind of like, maybe he was like slightly in the decline of his career where he wasn't like, prime Kobe. It was just a little bit after that. But man, he's just so capable of doing amazing things that I knew that if he had the ball, he was going to do something special. So it's just like knowing what your subject might do. And just, if you know them well enough, you can almost anticipate what they're going to do. So in that, the years of photography that I've done, you just have to anticipate and just shoot when you can, and bam, that's what happened.
So you would also apply those same techniques when you're shooting a show, right? I mean, the mannerisms of 311, particularly, I think Peanut, who tends to be the most animated on stage.
Yeah.
Be able to catch shots like that, right?
Yeah. And, maybe I feel kind of bad because I kind of cheat. They help me cheat because so I'll be right in front of Peanut or right in front of Essay, and then they'll come to me and like really like play to the camera. And if I'm being honest, it like doesn't really help me out because I'm just not ready for it. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's like they come out with some like pretty amazing shots.
Yeah.
So yeah, they definitely help me out with that. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome, man, dude. This has been a great conversation. I love hearing your stories, man, and getting to a little bit more background. Because actually, I don't know if I knew all the details about the 311. I'm sorry, the New Kids on the Block. 311, I did know.
Yeah,
the New Kids. Any other experiences you want to share before we wrap up?
Shoot, I mean, just kind of going along with like how my relationships with other groups have like led to other work. It's like working with New Kids on the Block. I ended up working with another group called Fifth Harmony, who won like an America's Got Talent type show. Uh-huh. And then from there, I also then started working with another gal named Sabrina Carpenter, who was like in the reboot of remember Boy Meets World?
Yeah.
So they rebooted it and it was like Girl Meets World.
Oh, I heard about that. That was with Topanga and Corey's son, right? Oh, daughter.
Yeah.
Daughter.
Yeah. So then I got to work with them, and then it's been a really just being able to like kind of parlay one relationship into years of work has been really great. There's some people that I wish I could shoot for, and I have shot for like maybe once or twice, mm-hmm. but I mean, it's still really great having worked with the people that I've worked for these last couple of years, because honestly, I honestly never really imagined this type of work for me like back like 15 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So you mentioned back in the beginning, with COVID restrictions, like, being lifted and things, getting better for the world. Do you have anything coming up in the next year or next year or so for gigs coming up for you?
If I'm gonna be completely honest, the last 2 years it's sort of like really kind of I've decided that I don't want to tour anymore.
Oh, really?
And so yeah, man, I mean, listen, I have been lucky enough to tour pretty much nonstop for the last 10 years. And yeah, so my very first tour, I sat down on a tour bus and some guy was like, "Oh man, I've been on tour for like 35 years, man." And, and then I'm like, man, how does that happen? Like just traveling nonstop. But then I'm at like the 10-year mark now. And honestly, the last 10 years have felt like nothing.
Mhm.
And, during the pandemic being home, like I have this healthy obsession with tennis. I play tennis basically every single day. And knowing that if I'm touring, I can't do that.
Mhm.
And so I've actually started working with New Kids on the Block management and doing some auxiliary stuff for them at home. And I work from home and, just basically wherever I'm at, I can play, I can work. So I've been, trying to see if I could learn more about the music industry so that I can stop touring and I can continue like in another path. Cause I mean, I've been lucky enough to, do this type of work, and basically everything that I've wanted to do up to now, I have. And so I'm sort of changing my focus to something different to see if I can flourish in that too. So
Awesome, man. Well, good for you. Good for you, dude.
yeah.
Yeah.
But in saying that
Yeah.
really quick, I am going to have sort of a gallery opening with a bunch of my stuff later this year that my friend is going to help me put together. And it's going to be at a place called The Cube in downtown Los Angeles. And so it's going to be pretty much like a warehouse full of my photos. So we're working on that right now. We're having discussions about it, and then it'll probably start taking shape during the summer. But come fall, that's when it's going to happen. Yeah.
Awesome, man. I can't wait to see that. So keep me posted. I'll definitely do plugins for you to get as many people out there, and definitely count me in to go check it out. And I'm sure my wife Allison would love to see it too. So
yeah. Oh, and also, I mean, I'm glad you're doing this podcast thing because I think you have like a good voice and you don't say nearly as much as I do. So
I want to try and get better at it. I want to try and open up more. And actually I talked about it with Nick and Tom and Tyler, that just the technology is there. If we just want to take advantage and use it, then we can. You don't have to be good. You don't have to be a professional, but the more we practice at it, I think the better we can be at it. So yeah, I'm having fun doing it. This has been pretty cool for me.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Also, whoever's listening to this, I haven't seen you in a minute, and it looks like you're getting some white in your beard there, my friend.
Yeah. You having a 5-year-old daughter would do that to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, on my beard and then the side of my head.
Yeah,
I'm starting to look like Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four.
There you go, man. Good.
Okay, it's been fun, man. I'm glad we had this opportunity to chat. I'd love to chat with you another time too. Maybe even get Nick to jump in too.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that'll get funny.
Okay. Any last things to plug in? Are we good?
I mean, just watch that documentary. Also, I mean, a little something on the lighter side. You guys should go try the Beach Plum LaCroix because it is so tasty, and it's
Awesome.
probably one of the best LaCroix flavors that there is out there. So
okay. Yeah. For sure, man. Thanks a lot, dude. Okay, yeah. Marcello, it's been such a blast. Thank you for making the time to chat with me, and we'll definitely do this again soon.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate you reaching out. Thanks, man.
Okay, take care, man.
It's okay.